Hey guys, in this video I'll show you the strongest subclassing combination for 1-bar solo play. I've already tested it by soloing veteran hard mode Fang and veteran Oathsworn pit dungeons, and you'll be able to find both logs and recordings of those runs in this video's description and in the website guide. Logs allow you to check various statistics of a fight, like damage done, healing done, which ability or item did the most healing, etc. And you can even watch a top-down replay of the fight. Later on, I'm also going to show a bunch of parses on the 6mm unbuffed dummy, so you can compare this build to other solo builds. You can use this build to obliterate any kind of regular solo content like arenas, world bosses, dolmens, dragons, volcanic vents, harrow storms, mirror incursions, etc. Because all of these things are 100 times easier than soloing 4-man DLC dungeons in veteran or hard mode difficulties, which this build is capable of. The build is also on my website, so if you prefer written guides over YouTube videos, you can read it there instead. The link will be in the description. Starting off with subclassing. The three skill lines we're going to use are Warden's Animal Companions, Nightblade's Assassination, and Arcanist's Herald of the Tome. So your base class can be either Warden, Nightblade or Arcanist. And there is no difference between them, because we won't be utilizing any class set or a class script. Moving on to skills. This is the base setup that will work for most situations, and which should be your starting point when making situational setups. First we have Cephaliarch's Flail, an AoE spammable that generates cracks, heals you if you hit any enemy, and increases the damage enemies take from you by 5%. It will also trigger the Splinter Secrets passive, increasing your penetration by 1.2k. Next we have Pragmatic Fate Carver, extremely powerful crack spender that deals full damage in AoE, has massive range of 22 meters, and grants you a big damage shield when you channel it. It also grants you 1.2k pen from the Splinter Secrets. Next we have Inspired Scholarship, an ability that deals lots of damage and ensures you'll have at least one crux when your beam ends. It also grants you 1.2k pen from the Splintered Secrets. Having it also on the back bar doesn't matter in the base setup, but it can be useful if you replace the front bar Inspired Scholarship with another ability. Next we have Deep Fissure, deals a lot of damage per cast, applies crucial major and minor breach debuffs, and provides 5% critical damage through the Advanced Species passive. Next is Bullnetch. Provides a lot of stamina sustain, a 5% damage boost, constantly purges debuffs, and also provides 5% crit damage through Advanced Species. Next we have Soul Harvest, a cheap ultimate that increases target's damage taken from you by 20%. You need it on your front bar to trigger the passives of the Assassination skill line. Having it slotted will also cause you to regain 10 ultimate whenever you deal a final blow against the enemy. Having it also on the back bar doesn't matter in the base setup, but it can be useful if you decide to replace the front bar Soul Harvest with another ultimate. And lastly we have Relentless Focus, an ability that will passively grant you 400 weapon spell damage, if you're not using Oak and Soul Ring. So that was the base setup, but now I'm gonna show you a bunch of situational skills, which you can use to tailor this base setup to specific fights. Bullnetch is the first skill that has to go when you need to slot something situational, unless the situational skill specifically says that it's replacing something else. First we have Revealing Flare. Use it for more difficult fights, where you need more damage mitigation. It's a skill that passively grants major protection, reducing your damage taken by 10%. It will also trigger the Magicka 8 passive, which increases your Magicka recovery by 10%. Wield Soul, with the Flame, Lingering Torment and Resolve combination on it, is a 10-second dot that provides major resolve, which increases your armor by 5948. It's a better defensive option than Revealing Flare in single target fights. You'll also have better stamina sustain with it, compared to Revealing Flare, because it's a Magicka ability that has to be used every 10 seconds. It's mostly useless if you're already getting major resolve from Oak and Soul Ring. Next we have Resolving Vigor, a strong 5-second heal over time. Use it in fights where bosses have immunity phases, during which you can't heal through Ring of the Pale Order or Reaving Blows. Next we have Precognition, an ultimate that breaks you out of some otherwise unavoidable stuns. You'll need it to get around some mechanics which are otherwise impossible or very difficult to solo, like for example Infernus Hold in Zan the Scalecaller fight. Next we have Piercing Mark, a replacement for Deep Fissure when you're replacing Soul Harvest with Precognition. It's a worse source of major breach, but you need an upgrade ability on front bar to trigger passives of the Assassination skill line. Now here's an example of what your setup could look like when facing a boss that hits very hard. Revealing Flare replaces Bullnetch as it provides 10% damage mitigation. This might cause stamina issues, which you should solve by changing food to Orzorga's Trap Truffle Pocket and or slotting Bloody Renewal. Though it shouldn't cause sustain issues if you have ratios that provide stamina sustain. Now as for rotation, I don't use a static rotation, so this is just a list of priorities. Simply recast abilities when they run out, and follow the list of priorities when there are multiple things to refresh. Use Deep Fissure, use Inspired Scholarship, use Bullnetch. If not at 3 cracks, use Cephaliarch's Flail, use Soul Harvest, and if at 3 cracks, use Pragmatic Fate Carver. Keep in mind that you can pre-buff Inspired Scholarship, Deep Fissure, and Bullnetch before entering combat. Now as for passives. I am now very quickly going through all of the passives you should get on the screen. You can either pause the video or look up this list on the website guide. Now moving on to gear. Here's an example of a beginner setup made with just crafted sets. So Order's Wrath, Tideborn Wildstalker, and 2-piece Assassin's Guile. The setup in the table uses only crafted gear, but if you already own parts of the regular setup, which I'll talk about in a moment, like Ring of the Pale Order, you can start using them immediately. If you want to solo some difficult content without Ring of the Pale Order, you'll have to add Reaving Blows to your setup. But for the easier stuff, the healing from Cephaliarch's Flail and shielding from Pragmatic Fate Carver will be enough. The weight distribution of the setup from the table is 1 heavy, 5 medium, and 1 light, so that you can start leveling up all your armor skill lines. Once you transition to regular setup, you'll be using 6 medium, 1 light most of the time, switching to 1 heavy, 5 medium, 1 light only against more difficult fights. Here's a list of gear that might be easier to obtain and can be used while you work towards the best gear. You don't need to start with crafted gear. Simply pick 2 sets from this list that are easiest for you to obtain. Dungeon gear isn't always an upgrade to crafted or overland gear. It's listed in case you already own some of it. The strongest gear combination, without any trial gear, is Order's Wrath combined with Tideborn Wildstalker. And there are a few more things I have to mention. Use training traits if you're still leveling. If you're already at max level and have enough champion points, you can instead use Divines and Reinforce on a chest piece. For overland content, you don't need as much penetration, so you can replace maces with daggers. Now we're moving on to the regular gear setup, which is going to be your ideal gear for the majority of content. So Ansu's Torment, Tideborn Wildstalker, Ring of the Pale Order, and 1-piece Slimecrow. If you want to switch a situational set, it's best to replace Ansu's Torment, if the situational set you're getting has a minor Slayer line, and replace Tideborn Wildstalker otherwise. When replacing Tideborn Wildstalker with a medium armor set, change your Slimecrow headpiece to light armor type. For example, a default setup for trash packs would replace Ansu's Torment with Suzan's Torment. Once again, the strongest gear combination without any trial gear is Order's Wrath combined with Tideborn Wildstalker. Now I'm gonna list all the situational sets. Suzan's Torment, as I said before, is the best set for trash packs, but it's also the best set for bosses that regularly spawn smaller adds. Now this is the setup for easier fights, when you want to maximize damage at the cost of survivability. It also has better sustain and damage mitigation, so sometimes it can be straight up safer than the Pale Order setup, especially in fights with lots of adds, where Reaving Blows, hitting multiple targets, will heal you enough. To give you an example, it was superior to the regular Pale Order setup in the hard mode Turvokun fight. The setup simply replaces Ring of the Pale Order with Oakensoul Ring. Keep in mind that without Pale Order's healing, you will need the Reaving Blows CP to survive most fights. But there's another option. In terms of DPS, a Velothi Urmage's amulet is similar to Oakensoul Ring in single target DPS, and a decent amount stronger than AoE DPS. But you'd be losing out on the sustain and mitigation from Oakensoul Ring. It's an option for AoE fights with a DPS check. For example, I've used Velothi instead of Oakensoul against the second boss of Veteran Fangler in order to kill the boss, before the cadaverous Sench Tiger's Death Grip mechanic. Moving on to champion points. In the blue tree, you'll want to use Master at Arms, Biting Aura, Fighting Finesse, and Wrathful Strikes. When soloing extremely difficult dungeons, you should replace Wrathful Strikes and Fighting Finesse with 2 of the 4 mitigation slotables that match the fight's damage type, so Ironclad, Duelist Rebuff, Unassailable, and Enduring Resolve. Huge majority of the times is going to be Ironclad and Duelist's Rebuff. When using the full damage setup, you will have to replace Wrathful Strikes with Reaving Blows in most fights. In the red tree, you'll want to use Bundles of Vitality, Bastion, Rejuvenation, and Fortified. In fights with lots of adds, Bloody Renewal can be stronger than Rejuvenation. Make sure to use Bracing Anchor in fights where you have to block a lot of attacks, and where you don't have to move that much. And remember to use Celerity in fights where you have to move a lot. Moving on to race. When it comes to solo PvE, you need both damage and survivability, so pretty much all races have useful ratios. The best race for dealing damage is Khajiit. While the critical damage from Feline Ambush can sometimes be wasted, due to critical damage being capped at 125%, it will never happen in solo content, because there will be no tanks or healers, providing you with the major force buff. The best race for survivability, and what I am using, is Nord. The Ragged racial will provide around 6% damage mitigation. Now Mundus. Huge majority of the times, you should use the 5th Mundus, which increases your critical chance. For extremely difficult dungeons, you should consider switching to the Lady Mundus, which increases your armor. Now attributes. For most content, you should put all 64 points into stamina. For difficult content, you should devote as many attribute points as necessary to health. For some content you'll be able to get away with 32 health, 32 stamina. For the extremely difficult stuff, you'll need 64 health. Moving on to food. Most of the time, you should use the braised rabbit or spring vegetables, which increases max health and max stamina. If you can't sustain it, because of, for example, a different skill setup, you should instead use Orzorga's Trap Truffle Pocket, which increases your max health and stamina recovery. Moving on to potions. With the regular setup, you should use the Weapon Power potions, which grant you Major Brutality, Major Savagery, and restore stamina. The Major Brutality is redundant, but these are literally cheaper than the ones without Major Brutality. You can craft them by combining Blessed Thistle, Dragon Thorn, and Wormwood. Immovable stamina potions are much more expensive than weapon power potions, but can provide a very slight edge as they can make you CC immune for a short time. You can craft them by combining Columbine, Wormwood, and Mountain's Flower. When using the full damage setup, you should instead use stamina armor potions, because Oakensoul Ring will already provide Major Savagery. You can craft them by combining Columbine, Beetle Scuttle, and Mountain's Flower. Another option when using Oakensoul Ring are potions which provide both resistances. You can use them in fights which deal a decent amount of magical damage. But you'll most likely have to get additional stamina sustain from another source, like food, CP, or racial. You can craft them by combining Baglos, Mountain's Flower, and Madcap Chitin. Moving on to Parse. I parsed 58k with the regular Pale Order setup on the 6 mana buff dummy. With the full damage setup, which uses Oakensoul instead of Pale Order, but also the Reaving Blows CP instead of Wrathful Strikes, I managed to parse 62.3k. Now here's the recording of the 58k parse, done with the regular setup. And that's it for this video. If you have any more questions, you can comment down below or join our Discord server Wildheart. As always, feedback will be appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel and check out my Twitch. Thanks for watching and see you next time.